Probably broke his hand on my face, but other than that,
You're either on the bus or you're off the bus.
Welcome aboard to episode 33, Ridin the Bus, the official I Am a Wild podcast, on the way into your living rooms, cars, backyard while you're weeding, while you're cleaning out your leftover leaves from the springtime. Where are the other places people listen to podcasts?
I was going to see. The gym.
The gym. Oh, yeah.
We've listened to 32
How
Thoughts.
did I get to picking up leaves from the spring without getting to the gym first?
I thought when you were going to say outside, I was like, well, you're grilling or something, but you went with weeding, which is crazy.
It's where I listen to a lot of my podcasts, which aren't
the
many.
The
car.
Some people listen at work. Like sometimes I have it on as background noise.
On the airplane, if you download.
Yep.
What a great intro that was.
Yeah.
Ben
All the
Gist
places
listen-
you can catch Ridin the Bus.
Yes, you can.
The official podcast.
Maybe on the bus, on an actual bus.
Yeah, planes, trains, automobiles.
There you go. Joey Goldstein, Ben Gislison, thanks for joining us. Thanks for hopping on board for episode 33. Caedan Bankier joining us in just a little while. One that you and I were extremely excited about for all the reasons, the player he is, but more importantly for this platform, the personality he has, which shines through beautifully, no surprise.
Yeah, no, I think Caedan's somebody who I feel like fans didn't know too much of. He is a little quieter until you get him to open up. And for the first half of the year, he wasn't in the mix like a lot of the other guys were because he was hurt and recovering from injury. But the minute he got in, obviously his play on the ice spoke for itself. But we were able to, like we do with a lot of guys this year, was uncover more and more about everybody's personalities through our social media channels. And he was one who shined through. Him and, to me, like when I think of our social channels from this year and the player involvement interaction that we had, there's really two guys who stand out a lot to me. And he's one. Carson Lambos was the other. Two guys who really put themselves out there. And that's not an easy thing to do. I know it's like this is the age for them. We talked a little bit about that, where using social media to help bolster, whatever.
It works. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, your fan base and your people who will follow you and whatnot. It's a big part of the game now. It's part of life now. Those are two of the younger guys coming up through it, but we ask them sometimes to do some ridiculous things, and they're always willing to help out, to help us promote the organization. So I can't say thank you enough to both of those guys for doing that, but I think our fans got to see a peek behind the curtain, behind the face shield, if you will, for these guys and learn a little bit more about who they are and what they're all about.
Behind the visor. That's a title for something, isn't it? It's like when I go to those
Behind the visor.
When we have those corporate brainstorming sessions upstairs.
Yeah.
And I've said this before in these meetings. Really, the only thing I can ever bring to those is titles, like catchy titles.
Sometimes
for this,
we need those
catchy titles for that.
Sometimes that's the hardest part of coming up with some of these ideas. Like we need the catchy title.
The title guy.
I got a couple good ones, video series wise. I'm not going to share them here because I don't want all you 31 other teams out there listening to steal one of them.
We know all 31 listen.
But I got some ideas that I think would be fun series to do. But anyways,
speaking of the other 31 teams, let's actually feature 4 of them.
Yeah.
Another good title you came up with for this.
Yeah.
The AHL Wraparound.
AHL Wraparound. So here we go. So we're going to preface this again, as we have every time. We record the week prior to you seeing this go out. So
full transparency here.
It comes out on a Tuesday. We're recording here on a Friday, so we're a little delayed. By the time you hear this, there's a pretty good chance that the Calder Cup is set and will be getting underway soon. However, where it stands right now, as of our Friday recording, both series have been extended. Coachella's up 3-1 on Milwaukee. Hershey's up 3-1 on Cleveland. A quick recap on some of the games that we've missed because we've really only talked about game one for each of these series. We'll start in the West. Again, we're in the West. We know that the best. We might need to cut that.
We do.
Yeah. No. Anyways. Good video. After game 2, so I guess in the series, and I told you this, after game 1, there were some comments made by someone in Milwaukee, Stastny, maybe, had said something in his post-game interview about Coachella, how there's this storyline, unwritten word or whatever, basically saying that Coachella was kind of brought into the league with a, silver spoon kind of. They're giving everything on a silver platter, basically. Coachella took that to heart. Obviously, they come out, they win game 2, and they show up to their post-game press conference. There are 3 guys. Paul Oralski plays for them, right? He was one of them. And they plop down on the table a massive silver spoon, just like a little jab. So
I love that.
They get that. Game 3 comes and goes. Coachella wins 5-2. 2 games in a row for them. They score in the opening minute of the game. They were basically up 3-0 after 1. Never looked back. You'd think Milwaukee's kind of starting to miss Askarov a bit. Again, I've praised Troy Grosnick, and I will continue to do that. But Askarov he's their number 1, and you need to be able to lean on him. Well, you get to game 4, and oh boy, does the script flip. Milwaukee wins 7-2 over Coachella, dominates the game. In fact, it's 20 years to the day. So they won 7-2, 20 years to the day that they won a Calder Cup. Score of that game,
Look at you.
7-2.
Look at you.
So shout out to
Tip of the cap.
Shout out to Milwaukee Social for pointing that one out. But pretty cool. So that series, again, Milwaukee's got an uphill battle. They haven't lost an elimination game so far yet this postseason, but it's not going to be easy. Coachella's a really, really, really good team.
4th win's the hardest, though. Everybody says that. 4th win is the hardest.
And then in the East, you got Hershey up 3-1 on Cleveland. Game 2. Shades of game 1, where it comes down to the wire. David Juracek with another overtime forcing goal with 1:33 to go, where it was 19 seconds or whatever in game 1. Game 2, just about a minute and a half left, ties the game. They end up losing in overtime. Hershey wins that one. Game 3 gets away from Cleveland a little bit. Hershey wins 6-2. They chased Jet Greaves from the game, which is not an easy thing to do.
Correct.
I think Malcolm Subban came in to replace him. But this was there 14,000 fans at this game in Hershey, which is pretty crazy.
It's like an NHL playoff game in some buildings.
Yeah. And then game 4, Cleveland pulls this one out. They win 3-2. It was their first win in 8 games against Hershey this year, which just shows you how dominant Hershey was against everybody, because Cleveland is a really, really good team.
One of the best in the East.
And they had 12,000 fans in their building. This was in the press release. I thought it was good to point out. They've played 6 home games this postseason, Cleveland has. It's the 5th time out of those 6 games that they've surpassed 10,000 fans at their games, which is unbelievable. They always get great
I'd love to
support,
get
and
there at some point. I don't think I haven't heard their name on our at this time of year. I'm always just hearing potentials.
Yep.
I didn't hear them. I'd love to get to see them, because I know at one point I think they were in the Central. Cleveland was, I think.
Yeah, it was part of like people. There's been a lot of movement in the AHL in the last couple of years, and adding new teams and realignments and whatnot. And I think that was part of it. But yeah, I mean they are right in downtown Cleveland. They play where the Cavs play,
right?
It's
I'd love to see that. I would love to go there.
They do well. So that's kind of where we're at with the conference finals, which basically sets us up for a rematch between Coachella and Hershey in the Calder Cup finals.
If it gets there, which I think we think, again, what are the odds of a 3-0 comeback? It's not 0, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not much past 0. Who do you got?
It's hard for me to pick against Hershey. I think Hershey can easily repeat. That's what I said going into the season. Everybody, you go through the off season, and it's probably somewhere in a podcast. I'm not going to make us go back and look for it because it take a little while. But they were such a good team last year, and all they did was go out and somehow get better, which is so hard to do on the AHL side when you have a championship team, because there's so much roster turnover, and it's hard to replicate that magic. They somehow added more pieces, which I didn't think was possible, and dominated the league the entire year. I mean, we saw it when they came into playoffs. We were playing decent hockey at the time. They blew our doors off.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really, really good. They had 2 great goaltenders. They got a lot of depth. They got good veterans. So that's my pick, but I do think it's going to be a hell of a series. I'm sure it goes 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Absolutely. So that would be my pick, would be Hershey.
Yeah, I would agree, but I think it'll be a 1-game swing. I don't see it ending in 5 or maybe even 6. I mean, last year it took an overtime game 7. It was as dramatic as you could ask for. To me, what stands out, again, if this comes to fruition, is there are some interesting parallels to the Stanley Cup final and what will likely be the Calder Cup final. You look at Coachella, they didn't have the start that Edmonton had, but they did not get off to a very good start this year. It took them a while. Mm-hmm. And then similar to Edmonton, they grabbed the reins and they got rolling and they did not look back. And they were one of the best teams in the American League second half and on. They just started steamrolling teams. Hershey was good all year. Hershey is built from the net out. Florida's built from the net out. Great goaltending, great defensive hockey. They can play that rough and tumble style. You look at Dylan McElrath on the back end. He's as tough as they come.
That's where I
They've
mean,
got that
from a veteran standpoint too. He's wears the C for them. He's a good leader. It's not a guy you want to mess with either.
No, definitely not.
But on those parallels too, like you talked about, Florida was a team who was dominant all year. They were really, really good all year, just like Hershey was, but also a team that was in the finals last year.
Yep.
Had a good team last year, somehow got better.
Just like Hershey.
Just like Hershey.
Right?
So
and Coachella got better too.
Yeah.
I remember, and I bring this up later too. I caught up with Joe Hicketts, who played in Ontario, and he was driving back to Kamloops, and I think I just texted him a couple of days ago. So he was going through his, for lack of an antiquated term, or for using an antiquated term, his Rolodex of people to call and kill some time on a 12-hour drive.
Hey, I do it every summer.
Joe Hicketts is calling. Yeah, you get it. And so I caught up with him, and I asked him which Coachella team was better, the one that the Iowa Wild played last season, who, again, we all left that series, which was such a great series. Remember how much fun that series was? It was awesome.
Yeah,
both sets there and here. Or this year's team, and he said he think that they got better this year. Yeah. But there a lot of the same core is there, which will make for such an entertaining final because Hershey's got a lot of the same guys back too.
They know each other.
So you've got there's going to be some hatred boiled into or baked into the bread of that series that, again, we think will come to be, and that I'm all for that. That'll be really fun to watch and keep tabs on.
And the good news for the rest of the league is a lot of these guys who are performing well for Hershey and for Coachella are like probably making the jump next year to being full-time NHLers. So things are going to come back down to earth.
Hendrix Lapierre, go to Washington.
Was it Riker
Evans? Go to Seattle.
It's going to work out. They're going to leave some for the rest of us. Which
Dan
is
Bilesma going to Seattle.
Yes. So
which I thought was kind of crazy. I mean, I guess in the NHL you have to announce that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, that's a weird announcement to make in the middle of a playoff run like that.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm also sure, I guarantee you it was something that he told everybody about and it didn't come as a surprise.
That's a good point. Yeah,
it's not like it was going to throw their mojo off or anything. But so that's kind of that. But that does segue us into the Stanley Cup, which I do want to talk about because there are some connections to either the AHL or the Wild themselves. I went through everything. I was like, could any former Iowa Wild players win a cup? No. Not this year, unfortunately. But there is a Wild connection. Dmitry Kulikov, playing for Florida, dressed in Minnesota a couple years ago. So that's like your lone Wild connection between the two. But the big connection is on the AHL side. And I know the league praises this a ton, and it's something that comes up with us a lot too, is just the success of the players graduating and playing in the AHL. And every year they put these numbers out, and at some point they're going to come out. I haven't seen them yet, so I did all the research myself and got ahead of it. But there's some staggering numbers. So Florida's roster right now, so obviously this includes Black Aces and everything. They got 35 guys in their roster. 27 are AHL alumni. So 27 of them have played a game. That includes Paul Maurice, who was coaching in the AHL at one point in his career, right? So that's pretty impressive. Now let's turn the page to Edmonton. 33 out of 34 roster players played in the AHL. The one
who's the one?
The one who didn't. We'll see. If anybody knows, let us know.
Tell us. Who didn't
Trivia
play
question.
in the
Who's
AHL?
the one guy who didn't play in the AHL? But that actually
imagine him playing in one AHL game.
Well, that shocked me because Leon Draisaitl played in the AHL.
Yeah, that kind of shocked me. I agree. That shocked me too.
That blows my mind. There's some really good players there, but that's a big credit. Bakersfield has done a really good job and there's a lot of guys who are playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now who just a couple weeks ago were playing for Bakersfield in the AHL playoffs. So they've done a really good job, tremendous job. And obviously Chris Knobloch earlier this year was coaching in Hartford. So like a lot of AHL connections. That doesn't even get into assistant coaches and the rest of the staff. So there's a lot of AHL connections there, which is a pretty staggering number and something that I know the league is really, really proud of. We always get to see those numbers at the end of each season. We got league meetings coming up. They'll go through it, all the number or the percentage.
I think it's 90%. There was an email about this that went out as the series is getting ready to start. I think it's 90% of the National Hockey League has at least played one game.
Yeah,
which is wild.
Yeah,
but also not that wild because it's not like it's been that way. Like they really have.
Oh, it has, but it's a staggering number.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge, and just again to keep reiterating this to our fans, that's one of the great drawing points for me to the American Hockey League is not only are you and to your point, especially with Bakersfield Edmonton, not only are you going to potentially get to see these players that are going to go be NHLers someday, but you're going to get to see Evan Bouchard, who has been one of the best.
He's like 5 points away right now from setting the playoff record for points by a defenseman.
You're seeing future Leon Draisaitl. You're seeing Brandon Montour for Florida. Like you're seeing future stars, not just future players, but future stars.
Future stars in your backyard today. That's basically the AHL's motto, right? That's what it is. You can see all these people and grow with them. And like we talked about, I think we talked about it in last week's episode, having a chance to get to interact with them on a more personal level that once they go up, it's a lot harder to do.
On that note, we had a great event last week, Iowa Cubs outing, an awesome opportunity for everybody, staff, myself included, to really get to be around our fans. And for me especially, I relish those opportunities. You get to do it a little more, obviously, our ticket staff that are there locally in Des Moines during the season to get to do it a little more than I do. But in the offseason especially is when I get a chance to be around more of our season ticket holders, our Wild 365 members, fans in general. Great Wild 365 event that was at the Iowa Cubs game, and spoke with one of our Wild 365 members, Morgan, who came down. Thanks for coming and saying hello, by the way, Morgan. Said he loved the Spot Check episode 1. That means a lot to us because we do put time and effort into this, and to know people out there, one, are listening, two, are enjoying it.
And when we get the feedback, too, we take that and we run with it.
So thanks for saying hello, and thanks for loving the show and for saying that. But also Morgan was talking about what you were just saying, and he was telling me a story about how he got to meet Jesper this year, and he got to introduce his son to Jesper. And as we all know, and we dote on Jesper and love Jesper for the goalie he is, but just like Caedan Bankier, the person he is too. And that's it. That to me is, and we were talking about that at the game, is that's one of the great selling points, and especially that our group does a really good job of, is making sure that fans can actually get to meet these players. You feel like you get to know these players a little bit more. You learn more about the person as opposed to the player, and that's a really neat thing for us. So thanks to Morgan for saying hello and for sharing that story with us. He also brought up how I think he said you did a great job with this, because he was supposed to meet him because he bought the AHL All-Star jersey, and the day he met him was the day Jesper got called up during the Hershey series, and then you did a good job of making sure that they did get to meet Jesper later on, even though it wasn't according to script, because as always tends to be, the bobblehead curse, right? Yeah, the bobblehead curse happened, and Jesper was not here for his bobblehead night.
That's all right. It happens.
Yeah, great.
It happens. That's the way it goes.
Getting to Bankier shortly, but just a couple of housekeeping items we should get to, and some congratulations are in order. New strength and conditioning coach of the Iowa Wild, someone that our hockey ops staff knows well, and maybe some of our Heartlanders fans that listen know well. The former strength coach of the Iowa Heartlanders, our ECHL affiliate, Brian Rohrbach, getting promoted internally. He'll be the strength coach for the Iowa Wild this season. Also, the athletic trainer of the Iowa Heartlanders, Jason Geisler, getting a promotion to be an assistant athletic trainer with Dan Barker. Later on, we'll do On the Table with Dan Barker. We think we're going to make something happen with that. So stay tuned for more on that. But a big congratulations to Jason and Brian, and welcome to the family. We're looking forward to having both of them involved this season.
Yeah, and if we're going to talk promotions real quick, I'd be remiss not to talk about some of the movement on the front office side as well. So really promotion-wise, Arthur Braden, who was on our group sales side, is now going to head up our membership services department. So big shout out to Art for his new role. We're excited to see him grow in that. And then just some movement from the ticket side over to the corporate side. Haley Johnson, Jake Dixon are now moving over from the ticket side to the corporate partnerships team to help us bolster our sponsorship department. So a little bit of movement there, some exciting things. Hopefully some people that we bring on at some point to chat with. I know Art would be someone who I'd love to have on because he went to school with Luke Toporowski, and
ceramics class, right?
And neither of them really know, but they had an A class together. But interesting to bring Art on. We at the Cubs game, we're talking. Grew up in Tennessee, big Titans fan, played football out here, so kind of hearing. It's always fun to bring people on and kind of hear their journeys and how they got here, but. Save that for a later date. I think it's time for us to shoot this over to Banks and get this interview rolling.
Indeed. Let's cut the ice and get to period 2 with the Wild's leading rookie goal scorer from a season ago. He had 13 of them. Wild forward Caedan Bankier.
Before we get to our second period interview, we've got to shout out Explore Minnesota. ExploreMinnesota.com is your source for travel ideas, events, and unique places to stay. Summer festivals, award-winning dining, tax-free shopping, and outdoor activities combine to create getaways that can only be found in Minnesota. Find endless ideas for the perfect summer getaway at ExploreMinnesota.com.
You might have just given our guest some ideas because...
spending the summer in Minnesota.
Yes, he is. Caedan Bankier coming to us from the state of hockey. Did take a brief trip home to BC, but you are calling the state of hockey home this summer, aren't you, Caedan? Thanks for coming on, and we've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Clean ad read too. Very, very well
I've
done.
been working on it. I can't say that they've all been clean. That one felt good.
You have been. I would say the off-season Joey Goldstein on these reads it's been sharp.
I'm just it's
sharp.
It's the offseason. It's a little bit more laid back and relaxed and not as stressed out of all the craziness happening in season. So I think that's got something to do with it. But
so Banks, before we get to your bus story, even though you have been on riding the bus before, it was the exit day interviews. It was a small snippet. I know we talked about it with you in that episode. We were looking forward to doing this, getting down and have a more long-form discussion with you. But Minnesota in the offseason, different for you. I'm sure you're used to spending your off-seasons at home in Cloverdale or at least in British Columbia. What surrounded the move? What surrounded the decision to be in Minnesota this summer? And what are you going to be getting up to?
Yeah, I think there was a lot that went into my decision. Obviously, didn't have a great summer last year with the injury and stuff like that. So I think that also played a factor. Get some good training in and with the team here, and obviously just kind of wanted to hang out with some of the guys that lived around here too. So it's been great. And like I said off air, I'm living with Cons right now, so it's been great so far.
Kevin Conley, one of those names fans will recognize. Who are some of the other Iowa Wild folks that are spending time in Minnesota this summer? Obviously, there's some native Minnesotans, but it's not just people who come from Minnesota that are there this summer.
Yeah, obviously, Sammy's here. He lives here, so spent some time with him, and Mikey's here as well. And for a little bit at the end of the year, Ogie was around, so he's here also. So there's a few of us around living here this summer.
Find Caedan Bankier on a map, and Mikey Milne is somewhere nearby.
Yeah, not far away. Not far away.
Okay, bus story time. We're on the bus with Caedan Bankier, and we want to hear a great bus story. What do you have for us?
I know we had talked a lot throughout the year about the card games that were going back and forth, and how the older guys weren't loving how we had started up our own game, and they were losing players to which I think was the better game up front, and they just trying to poach us. It didn't matter where. It could be before a game, or it could be in the hotel. They were trying to get us for the bus ride home or to a game, and they were trying everything. They were bribing us to come back there and play, but we only had one guy go back there Lambo went back there and it didn't go too well for him. So we made a pact that we weren't going back there. They weren't going to take it from us up front.
What were some of the overtures that the older players made to try and bribe the younger, let's call it the Live Tour players, back to go to the PGA in the back of the bus?
Yeah, that's perfect. That is the live tour up there. Yeah, they were like begging. They were promising that they wouldn't do I guess scummy things to us back there if we went and played there. But after the whole Lambo situation, and I know Lambo came back pretty upset after that, and he was pretty mad. And I think we got into a good yelling match with the back of the bus. But there's some money involved for us to come back there, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Rumor has it within your card game, the front of the bus card game with the younger players, rumor has it, and we won't get too into the weeds on the strategy and the rules of 7 up, 7 down, but I've been told that you can be a tad quiet during these games, and you're supposed to self-report when you punt, which is bad in 7 up, 7 down, but rumor has it that you like to try to just fade into the bushes and not report your punting. Do you have any kind of response to those rumors?
Are you talking about me personally or
You
other guys?
personally, this was a direct attack on you.
Um,
Or maybe this is other guys do this. Maybe that's what you're alluding to now.
First off, I'd like to know who said that to begin with.
I cannot
And
reveal that.
Can't reveal
No,
sources.
no.
We don't do that on this podcast.
Journalistic integrity.
Yeah.
Second off, I have been known to do that from time to time.
He's honest. He's honest.
Yeah. It's only when I'm close. Usually I'm last place or stuff, but as soon as I'm getting close to the top, I might start to get a bit quiet when some things start not go my way. But I guess we'll never know.
Are there other players that do this as well? You're not the only one?
We'll cut this out. Jay. We won't throw anybody under the bus. We'll cut this.
To be honest, I'm trying to get away with my crimes when I'm trying to get quiet, so I'm not too paying attention too much to them, trying to keep the heat off me. But I haven't noticed. I might have to keep an eye out next time.
All right. Well, now we're off and rolling. That was a great bus story that led to a few follow-up questions, and I had that on my docket of questions I wanted to ask him today. Your first year pro, Caedan, obviously the obvious answer to this question of how it differed than your expectation is, well, you missed a good chunk of it. But aside from the fact that it took a bit because of your injury and your rehabilitation to get into the lineup, was there anything that came and went about pro hockey that you went, I didn't expect this was going to be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't expect to be injured and miss a good chunk. That was probably the biggest one. But I didn't, when you're growing up, there's always there's the bad teams, and then there's like the really good teams. There's no bad teams in this league. Every game is a hard fought, tough game. You got to bring your best every single night. You can't take nights off. Otherwise, you're gonna have really bad games. And I think it took me, a little while to once I got my feet under me and figure that out. I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons I learned from that.
One of the things when you obviously there's no way to replicate playing in a game and things like that, but you missed the first half of the season. You spent a lot of time watching the game from up top, as people say, right? And you get to see the game from a different angle, see it play out in a different way, and that benefits a lot of people. Do you think did that prepare you in some way for what you came into in the second half of the year, like being able to watch it from that angle?
Absolutely. I think I don't know what it was, like 25 games I think I had to watch up top, and I learned a lot up there, and I kind of looked at it as, well, I'm not going to be around, the group all the time while I'm rehabbing and stuff like that. So if I can somewhat understand the systems and how we're playing and all that kind of stuff, it'll help me when I get back, so I can get into more, I guess, trusted minutes and not have to worry about if the coach wants to put me out there or not, because I'll have somewhat of an idea of what he wants and what he wants to see. And I think obviously watching, how the guys played, and if I was ever to be thrown into the to a line with them, I kind of have a somewhat of an understanding of how they play and what they kind of want out there.
I've always been told adversity is our greatest teacher. And for anybody that hasn't played pro hockey, which is most of the world, or a pro sport and has been injured, I don't think maybe people understand how difficult it can be mentally. And specifically for someone playing for the Iowa Wild, and I couch this with, I had this same conversation with former Wild player Joe Hicketts, who was injured this year. We caught up a couple of weeks ago, but he was in Ontario where their trips are much shorter. They don't spend as much time on the road. Iowa, because we're so centralized, when we go somewhere, we're gone for a while.
Yep.
And if you're injured, you're here. You came on the road. I think it was Hershey was your first trip this past season, Caedan, if I'm not mistaken, or around that time in November. But you're away from the team a lot when you're injured. What did you learn about yourself during that time? Because that, on top of the fact that you have to grind through rehab, there's a lot that comes into rehab that's more than just getting your body in shape, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was tough for the first half. You're in a new country, you're in a new situation. You're trying to figure out, living, how to live on your own, as well as, you're rehabbing a pretty big injury. And obviously, your favorite time of the day is being at the rink and with the guys and stuff. And, when they're gone, you're not really around them. So I think it was really good, like you brought up earlier, Mikey being around a lot, and so that was good. We got to do our rehab together, so I had someone around and stuff. And when I was able to go, finally get the green light to go on the trips, I wasn't playing, but I still got to go and skate and be with the guys. It was the Hershey trip, and it was Thanksgiving too, so we had that big meal at that Hershey Lodge.
Oh, that was
So,
good. Man, that
oh
was a
yeah,
good meal. Oof.
and we got to spend a lot of time with them. And I think that trip was, I don't know, 10 days, maybe 7, 10 days, something like
Close,
that.
yeah.
So, yeah, so that was really good for me. And then I think the next week we went to Colorado too, and I came on that trip. And so I think that really helped as well.
Yeah, that Hershey trip, that whole, Hershey is as advertised.
Is it?
Oh my gosh. They have at the Hershey Lodge, there's an entire bar that is completely Hershey Bears themed. It's called the Bears Den. It's got like the marquee of Hershey Park Arena, the old 1900s built arena. It's incredible. The whole thing it's like a fairy tale hockey world. It really is out
Been
there.
around
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah,
So
it was
certainly
quite an
makes sense.
experience. I'm very glad we got to experience that. Caedan, what was also really neat this year, you splashed onto the scene, and we don't need to get into necessarily what happened in between. You splashed onto the scene, but you also had a great finish. And this happens to rookies where sometimes it goes easy and then you realize, oh, wait, it's not going to be that easy. But the thing that I like about this story is, again, to pair you with Mikey Milne. He also was injured. You maybe had the splash right when you came back. He didn't splash as much when he came back. Granted, he started a lot later than you did, but you guys were both peaking at the end of the season. You guys were both playing really good hockey, meaningful minutes, scoring. You and Mikey were a big part of why Iowa finished the season the way they did. It was the best stretch of hockey that your team played all year, March into April. What started to click, you think, for you guys there, where you started to figure out how not only you can be successful, but how you can produce? Because you guys were both producing points in those final 10, 15 games of the year.
Yeah, I think it came more down to just kind of finding my rhythm back again. Obviously with being off for 6 months, I guess it was just kind of a quick adrenaline rush. You're back, and you're just trying to contribute for those first little bit, and then you kind of hit the lull. And then it was just kind of back to finding my game, and trying to be more confident out there, and not be second guessing and all that. So I think for me, and obviously Mikey as well, it kind of felt like we were finally back, like fully healthy, ready. And obviously the team was playing really well as well after that. And certainly when everyone's rolling, it's a lot more fun to play.
It felt like this team found its identity in that stretch, which is obviously too late in the season to really make a deep push. You find that identity maybe a month earlier, and you might be right there at the cutting line of playoffs come the end of April. But what do you think this team's identity wound up being once it was found? Because I would think you guys believed that you found your identity, though it came a lot later than anybody wanted it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once we kind of embraced the hard, physical, like tough to play against team, I think that's really when we found our identity. When we were hard to play against, we were hard on the forecheck. Not even so much the physical aspect, just net battles and taking away pucks and getting to the net. We scored a lot of goals by just kind of outworking teams and outworking our opponents by doing that. And once you realized, hey, this is working, we got to keep this up. It was a lot better for us.
Was that something that you think was a recipe earlier? Did that sort of organically happen? Was that being preached from the get-go, or did that come about in more of a natural way at the end of the year?
I think it was preached. It was preached about all year, and we never really quit all year.
No.
And sometimes there was some hard lapses. When you're just trying your hardest and it just wasn't working out. But I think when it finally broke open, it stayed for good. We finally were getting we were getting the bounces, and we were just sticking to it. I don't think we diverted all year from what we were doing, and I think that was a big result of why we finished, so well. It's just because, when things weren't going well, we just stuck to it, and we finished how we started and just kept working from day one till the end.
It just sunk in. It's weird how sometimes things just, for whatever reason, they just click
and
on.
I feel like that happens too, especially with a team. We were a really young team too, and it's an adjustment for a lot of guys coming into the pro game where, coming from juniors, right? You're not playing against adults like you are in the AHL, so sometimes it takes a little bit, and then once it does click, and it clicks for everybody at the same time, which sounds like it happened closer to the end of the year, that's when things start to really progress. But that stuff doesn't happen just overnight. So
the arrival of Luke Toporowski with that too, him and Turner Elson, can't say enough about what those two brought when they arrived. Interestingly enough, it does feel like, and part of this was just timing, but this team really took off with the arrival of them. Part of that is timing. Part of that is what they brought. You know Luke really well, obviously, from your guys' time together. When that news broke that he was coming, what came into your mind as far as the person and the player that is the first ever Iowa-born Iowa Wild player now, as it goes back into the history books last season?
Yeah, I was pumped. Obviously we played together in junior, and we were pretty close. So when I saw that he got traded here, I think I called him right away. I texted him. I was super excited. I was kept texting him like, when are you getting here? When are you getting here? Let's do this. And yeah, and obviously with Ellie as well. Like as soon as they came in, they made immediate impacts, and they were just great in the room and obviously on the ice as well. And it was kind of, I think it was, like you said, it was the start of us kind of turning it around and finding the rhythm again.
when we had Luke on during the season, he came on, and obviously we talked about you guys having played together, and he really praised you on the good chemistry that you guys had, and just the connection you guys had on the ice. But he also said that you really like to take credit for the success that the two of you and Logan Stankoven had. He says you like to take credit for it, but you also like to take credit and claim that Luke had his best season in the WHL while playing with you. So thoughts?
This sounds like him, that he would say that. I mean, I'm just saying the numbers spoke for themselves. He did play his best season of junior with us, but I've never said that out loud. He was just implying it. Yeah, I mean, as soon as he got traded, he was a deadline acquisition in junior. Kind of the same thing as here. We traded for him at the deadline in junior, and he loves to talk about how many goals he scored after the trade deadline in junior. How much? I think he was over a goal a game afterwards in junior. But he didn't bring that up. I guess it's all about me, how I talk about it, I guess. But we'll see. I'll have to talk about that. I'm actually going to text him after this that he said that.
We need to get these guys 2 microphones, 1 camera on together and hash this out.
Yeah.
Kangaroo court style, I think.
Oh, I would love a kangaroo court
kangaroo
session.
Court?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, something like that. Speaking of Toporowski and speaking of Stankoven, I'd have to imagine, one, getting to watch a buddy, a former teammate, have the kind of success that he's had and get to have the kind of spotlight that he's had, not only in the American League, but then moving into the NHL and being a couple of games shy of a Stanley Cup final berth, had to be pretty special. But the other side of it too, Banks, is you have to be watching him thinking, well, if Logan Stankoven can be doing this, I think in the near future, I can be doing this or some version of this too in the National Hockey League. And it's going to take time, and everybody's progression is different, but it has to be rewarding for you and exciting for you to watch somebody that you feel you're right step in step with having that kind of success, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's funny. We've been playing together since we were like 8, 9 years old, and so me watching him on TV isn't that weird to me. It's just not, it's just one of my buddies. He's on TV and he's playing well. I mean, to be honest, I thought he would get called up sooner, honestly, with the year he had and all that, and I knew he wasn't coming back. I knew he was going to stay up there and he was going to do what he does, and obviously he was playing great. Obviously he was a big reason why Dallas was playing that well and made it that far. But yeah, to your point, you play together with someone for so long, and you want to reach to the NHL. Everyone does at some point, but I've always kind of looked at it as it's not when you get there, it's how long you're going to stay up there. So there's no real you got to get there. You're going to push to get there, but if you're there for one game, that's great, but your goal is to stay there for as long as you can, and that's kind of how I look at it.
I've got a quote notepad in my phone of great quotes that I hear. That's going in there.
I'm in my head. I'm going, don't forget to say we got to clip that, and that'll be like a teaser clip. Don't forget it. So now that we're talking about it, I hope I don't forget it. But that's
it's exactly
line.
right.
Yeah.
That is exactly right. So that Stankoven, Toporowski, to swing it back one more time. The other thing we unearthed on the Toporowski podcast episode was his TikTok fame that came about from these dances that he did. We asked him about it, and he shied away from the spotlight a little bit.
Show us anything.
You got to live it. Like, what can you share with us about this meteoric rise that Luke Toporowski had on his TikTok page? Then, of course, that just he wiped the slate clean and took it completely off the internet for reasons unknown.
Oh, I know why they're off the internet. If you can find them, go find them. They're outrageous. It's a crazy thing, when you look back on it, it's like, why did I post that? I think I can't believe he posted some of the TikToks he was doing. I think
there was a lot of dances, right?
So many dances. So many dances. I think I have one on my phone before he wiped the whole thing clean. But it's outrageous. It's crazy. It still blows my mind that he said, "All right, I'm going to post this on the internet for everyone to see."
Were you ever in any of the videos?
Oh my gosh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, Banks didn't become a TikTok star until this year. Really, he kind of really hit the scene here, and we talked about it on Exit Day. Kind of became someone that everybody was looking forward to seeing in these walk-by videos and this and that. I got a question about one of those videos. One of the questions we asked was, is there a conspiracy theory that you believe in? And you didn't have one at first, and then you came back to the screen and very confidently said, Giants built the pyramids. So I just want to see, can you sell our listeners, for the people who may not think that Giants built the pyramids?
All right, I'm putting my tinfoil hat on. Here we go.
Convince us that that's how they got built.
I'm going to be honest. Okay, I didn't have one. I wasn't going to go back out there.
I knew this was coming.
Walks told me that I should just go say something random out there and just make a huge story. I think he said he's like a flat earther or something like that. So I tried to think of the most obscure fact I could think of when I came back and just say something on there. So there's really no method to what I said, but yeah, I don't really believe in any conspiracy theories right now, but if someone was to fill me in with one, and I would believe in it.
So you're not an aliens guy, no Bigfoot, none of that, none of it's real. The moon landing,
Uh,
none of it.
I mean, there's got to be something else out there. I mean, with how big the universe is, there's got to be something out there. I don't believe that we're the only things out here, but to go too deep into it, I don't. That's probably as deep as I'll go.
Here's a ride in the bus first. We are
Yeah.
now talking aliens.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised it's taken us this long.
This took a turn. This took a big turn.
Yeah.
Let's get it back on the rails. Another rumor that I came across prior to sitting down with you here, Banks. The rivalry in NHL video game between the Winnipeg Ice and the Kamloops Blazers, Carson Lambos, Mikey Milne versus Caedan Bankier and Kyle Masters. I was told, quote, millions of games have been played between that foursome. So my questions are, what do you think the all-time record is? Who's got the edge? Is it the Ice or is it the Blazers? And what teams do you guys typically play with? And who are maybe the best individual players in that four-man grouping?
Yeah, I think millions is lowballing it. I think we played a lot more games than that, and yeah, I think Kyle is the best. He's the best player, so I get him. But I'm probably the worst, so it balances out. But yeah, we've played a lot. Usually just kind of rotates. We do like Stanley Cup final series, so one team gets home, and then we'll just rotate back and forth. We've played a lot of that, and it's funny. Me and Kyle are, we kind of yell at each other like when we're not playing well, and kind of give it to each other. And Mikey and Lambo are kind of more calm. Hey, good job, keep going. Yeah, it's gonna turn for us. And me and Kyle are just yelling at each other the whole time, like trying to trying to win. So two different coaching styles, and overall, I think it's pretty even. I think it might be 50-50 right now.
I get the gears are spinning. Get them.
The marketing guru, wizard mind.
Just get them to play, film it. Yeah,
Does it get pretty heated?
Oh yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, there's some questionable ethics played during the whole thing, but that makes it better, I think.
So what are detail that for us? What are some of the questionable ethics? I used to be a big Chell guy. I'm really going to date myself. NHL 2010, I would have put myself in a very elite status. I was very, very good, very, very good at it. A long time ago now.
Games changed.
Yeah, games
since.
changed.
It's a lot
And I
now.
can think about what at that time, what some of the questionable things, you didn't do this, the unwritten rules. What are some of maybe the unwritten rules, questionable ethics that come up in these best of 7 series?
Oh, you might be on a breakaway. All of a sudden, someone hits pause. Oh, I'm getting a phone call from my mom. It's like, no, you're not. Playing like all this kind of stuff. There's those kind of flying around. You got to pause. You got to reset your lineup. You don't like who's playing when the other team's rolling. All this kind of stuff that goes into it, but it goes both ways. I wouldn't say me and Kyle are innocent in this either. I would say we've done that our fair share as well.
So guys pause the game mid-game to change lines?
Yeah, change lines, pull a goalie, call a timeout, quick reset.
Wow.
Pulling the goalie,
huddle in
calling a
their room.
timeout.
But
I get, but
you can always
changing
pull.
the
You can
lineups
always
is-
pull the goalie with, I think, just a button, right? You don't have to
I don't
pause
know
the
what it
game.
is,
I
but
think you
can.
could.
But like going in and like putting the lines through the blender. That's
that's
an
crazy.
insane thing to do in the middle of a game.
Oh, it gets intense.
Do it
for
in
sure.
intermission.
Yeah.
Do it in intermission. Not.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. Well, there you have it.
You also got to play in the World Championships, the World Junior Championships. You won a gold medal. We just had Spacek on last week, and for him playing for his country, winning gold on home soil, you got to experience that same thing for Canada. And I mean, in the process, playing with a guy like Connor Bedard, which is, I'm sure there's plenty of stories there too. But what was that like for you being able to represent your country? That was was that the first time you played in the World Juniors? Like, had you represented the country prior to that? But being able to play it on that kind of a stage has to be a pretty big deal, and to win on top of that.
Yeah, it was pretty special. I mean, anytime you get to play for your country, it's, the best feeling, and obviously winning, it's probably the best accomplishment in my life so far, and it's something I'll remember forever. And obviously, with our team. We were a pretty good team that year too, and funny enough, played Spotch in the gold medal game that year too. And but now he's got his gold medal, so I think he'll be more okay with me now. But yeah, it was just sometimes I think back on it and just like I can't believe like I did that and made that team and with the guys that were there. But yeah, it's super special and I can't say enough good things about that time and what happened for me.
You got any good stories, any good Connor Bedard stories? Obviously, playing with a guy of that talent is unbelievable. But there, you got anything that's worth sharing that people need to know?
We sat beside each other in the room there for the tournament in Halifax, and I think the one story I remember the most is so that Slovakia game in the quarterfinals where he scored that unbelievable winner. They had tied it and like sent it to overtime, and he was getting interviewed after the third period, I think, and they were like chirping him and like yelling at him while he was getting interviewed. And if you can find the interview, he looks pissed. He looks mad that they're like yelling at him. And I just remember him coming back in the room and all mad and stuff. And I was like, dude, it's fine. Like we're gonna figure this out. Like we'll get it done. He's like, and he would just like didn't talk to me, didn't say a word. He was a man on a mission, and obviously scores maybe the best goal I've ever seen live in person. And yeah, so that's something I'll always remember.
That's some unbelievable backstory.
That's leadership too,
Yeah.
right? That's a leader.
Yeah.
That's a leader. Banks, I don't have a ton else for you. Thanks for all this time. The couple of things I'll finish with, and Joey, I'll let you get to anything that we haven't gotten to on your end as well. The one thing that really jumps out to me about you, Caedan, is your personality is a sparkling one. This interview is a great example of it. And you're very much a part of the cutting edge era of hockey players where hockey has always been a little stuffy when it comes to players. And we're starting to see the tie is getting loosened, so to speak, on players, and personality is starting to come out. Players starting to realize that they can not only sell themselves as a player but by what they can do on the ice, but also who they are off of the ice. Do you foresee yourself being someone that, as your career continues, you're going to utilize social media in a way to really help showcase this great personality of yours to the world?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be like topper and post TikTok videos of myself, all that kind of jazz, but
Think
I
about it.
mean, I
Throw it
always
out.
I always hated when I was watching interviews and stuff and they gave the cliche answers, all the boring stuff. I was like, just kind of say it how it is. Like don't hide your feelings. So when I became, lucky enough to get into that kind of situation, I'm like, I'm just going to be myself. I'm not going to hide it. If we sucked, we sucked. If we were good, we're good. If I played bad, I'll tell you I played bad. So I'm not going to, hide what I'm thinking, and I'm just going to, be me. I'm not going to try and be anyone else.
I was listening to another interview that you did. You had mentioned that you're a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. When I was doing my rehab, like post surgery, I just binge watched the whole series and I loved it and I became a pretty big fan of it and I've watched them multiple times since and yeah, I'd probably say they're my favorite series. Yeah.
What is it that got you hooked? I mean, I think I think they're good movies.
I think they're fantastic.
Yeah,
I do.
but like, what is it that got you hooked? And bar none, that's your favorite series ever.
Um, to be honest, I have no idea. I just really enjoyed them. I thought it was great. I think just I don't know, maybe being a pirate. I don't know, like living on a ship. I don't know, searching for treasure. I think it's just it's unique. It's you don't really see anything else like that, and so I guess I I don't know. It's good movie.
I do feel like low key being a pirate would have been absolutely awful. Like a real pirate.
Terrible.
Like
Oh, awful.
it would be. But the way that they are souped up in movies,
Yeah.
it does look like the coolest life you could ever live.
They don't show the fact you're at sea for like 3 months at a time.
You like
It's
lose all your teeth.
You just blink and
you have
you're here.
scurvy. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's only the like chasing
showers.
down treasure and all
Yeah.
this fun stuff that happens,
Yeah.
which probably happened like feel like barely ever.
Yeah, not
if
that
you were a
often.
real pirate.
Yeah.
Lastly, for me, Caedan, the foundation you built this year is huge. The bricks that you've laid and the way that you're going to be able to build on that come next season is something that I'm excited to see. I know it's something that I'm sure you're excited to build upon. And I think specifically guys, when they come into their second years, it's a big year in development because you know the game now. You've understood what it takes to succeed at the American League level. You've seen it, and now you get to come back, and there's no dipping your toe in the water in October. It's you arrive, and you start to drive. What are you excited about it, and where do you think you can really jump in and grow your game in year two once we get to training camp time, September, October of 2024?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I got a full summer, healthy summer training and, skating. And, yeah, you said, I know what the league's about now. I know, the players, I know the teams, I know what to expect. And, with, the way, I personally finished and the way the team finished, I'm pretty motivated to keep it going and, keep this thing rolling and keep playing well.
You're up in obviously spending the summer in Minnesota, working up there. What are some of the things that you're really trying to accomplish while you're up there? Is it? I assume it's obviously getting bigger, faster, stronger is always part of it. But is there more to it than just hitting the weight room all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to build relationships with guys and be comfortable around certain, staff and players and stuff like that. So when you are come time for the season, you're comfortable, you're ready to go, you're not hesitant or second guessing yourself. You're ready to jump head first in and ready to get it going.
Great stuff.
That's all I got.
Me too.
Anything
That's
we
it.
missed?
Nope, it's perfect.
Banks, thanks a ton, pal. Great to see you. Good luck in the off season here. Enjoy the great state of Minnesota, and already
Yep.
looking forward to seeing 19 in green next season.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
As good as advertised, Caedan Bankier, just loved that.
Yeah.
Just loved that. And no surprise. Knew we would. Knew he'd be great. Really enjoyable stuff from I really, really think he's going to be a National Hockey League player. I really think that. And I don't say that about everybody because it's just not the truth. Like they won't all be. He's someone that has all the makings of it. And I think for me, the size is there. Mm-hmm. One, can't teach that. But two, the cerebral side,
the intangibles, the stuff you can't. Yeah.
You're right. The intangibles is the perfect way to say it. He's built to do it, and he's going to hone his craft here. And I mean, the highlight for me was that quote, and I'm serious. I'm putting that into my phone on my great quotes list. And there's some great people in there that some quotes I pulled from some really big.
Someday we're gonna dig through that list.
There, yeah, because he's exactly right. And I want to say I heard Mason Shaw echoed this to me at one point too, but he didn't say it as cleanly as Caedan did about getting there and staying there. It's not when you get there, it's that you stay.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. I think we should have Shaky Krause put that up in the locker room here somewhere because that's a mantra for me if I'm these guys.
It's the one thing that stands out for me too with Banks, like I do agree with you. I think he's going to someday be a National Hockey League player. It's the fact that like he is very good at knowing what his role is wherever he is. Now, he played half the year here with us this year, and when he came in, he's playing top line, power play, all that. Had he played a full season, he's probably someone who's in conversation for one of those all-rookie teams just based on if you were to pull out his stats for the whole year, he's up there with some of those guys.
If you did the math.
Yeah, we're big math people.
Love it.
But what's we talked a little bit with him about the World Juniors. That team, he was like the last forward invited to camp, someone who was never really expected to make that team. He makes that team, and he's not playing top line. He's on their fourth line. He is killing penalties. He's really known for being a defensive forward, which is being able to adjust to wherever you're put in the lineup and the different situations you're put in. Those are not everybody can do that. We see that. Guys go up and down. It doesn't some games don't translate and things like that. He's someone who has proven to be able to translate that at different levels. So I'm excited to see him continue to grow. I assume he's somebody who's going to spend majority, if not the entire season with us here in Iowa.
I'd say so, yeah.
So I mean, he may get a shot depending on injuries and all that kind of stuff, but like second year, giving him a full year here. I'm excited to see his growth, his development. But my biggest takeaway from the entire interview was that we need to find these Luke Toporowski TikTok videos. We gotta find these. The way he spoke about them a little glowingly, and the way Caedan talked about them, we gotta find one. There's gotta be one. Someone's gotta have one. We gotta find it.
Well, he said he had one, but I don't know if we're going to be able to peel that out. I don't know if he'll send that to us, right? Like,
no, but I think like when he's here, we could say, hey, you gotta. We need to see it.
that's true. Could we
I
at
just
least
need to see it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't need
know
the
what
video.
You might have an idea because you know the whole TikTok dancing trend. I have nothing in my head. I have no image
I got
in
it in
of
my
what
head.
I think
Oh, I got
looks
it
like.
in my head. I know what it looks like. I just want to see like what the dance was. I just want to see it. I don't need the video. I don't need to post the video anywhere. I just want to see it. It's been talked about so much. It's like urban legend. I need to see it. I have to see it. So I don't know. That was like my biggest takeaway from the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. As we dive in here to period 3, presented by the Wildware Shop. Wildware.com, the official online store of your Iowa Wild. The largest selection of Iowa Wild fan gear, one-of-a-kind apparel, and exclusive specialty merchandise. There's always something new at wildware.com. Don't miss out. Head to the website now. Start shopping. Get your gear. We've got a cool sale coming up for Father's Day, so you're listening to this on Tuesday this weekend. It starts on Friday, ends on Sunday, but if you're looking for some last-minute gift ideas for your dad, golf polos, quarter zips for the golf course, hats, whatever it may be, great chance to get some gear last minute for Father's Day. So keep an eye out on our socials. That's going to be hitting the waves this coming weekend. But my question for you, Ben, kind of on the Wildware piece, I raved about it last week. I talk about it all the time. We got some really cool stuff in the store. So my question for you is, of all the things that you've seen in the Wildware store, which piece is your favorite?
Oh, that's it. It was like I almost was like had the the rotating tie holder.
Yeah,
I had.
I have one of those.
I had that.
The batteries are dead.
I had that going through my head, but instead of ties, it was all the different sweet merch that there is. But it dawned on me, it's an easy answer for me. The crew neck goldfinch, the minute that, and by the way, great acting and great modeling that was done on that.
That was going to be
video.
mine.
Yep.
I love that thing. That's
You
one of my
and
favorites.
Alec,
Travis,
Eliza was there.
Yep.
Fantastic job on the modeling as well for that segment and that promotion.
I looked tough. I looked tough. I'm not, but I looked tough.
But half of being tough is just looking tough.
That's true.
So no one actually tests your toughness.
Yeah, people are going to test it.
There you have it. Someone needs to test Joey Goldstein's toughness. It's not going to be me.
God.
Maybe it'll be someone out there. But the crew neck goldfinch sweatshirt, that was something I remember almost instantaneously the day that great video went out. My wife texted me and said, "Gonna need one of those, right away." And I was like, I've raved on multiple different platforms, our content about the whole everything goldfinch. And everybody loved it. But the whole progression of that, from the homegrown logo from 2 seasons ago to pulling the goldfinch off the sleeve and putting it on as the crest of the jersey this year, I'm all about it. I'm here for it. Everything about that, tying in an ALS donation to it, home run after home run after home run from you, the merch staff, everybody involved in that, selling that night. That was a great night. The fans were great that night. It was a huge showing. Everything about that whole genre, the goldfinch, the homegrown logo, that's another more merch that I would shout out on. Anything with that, the state of Iowa wild
and
logo.
that's stuff that like we're gonna see more of. Obviously, we had the whole merchandise line around the goldfinch, which I'm a sucker for logo rebrands. Anyways, I love when they do it in minor league baseball, and especially like when they take like the local flair. Wilkes-Barre has done it a couple times over in the Eastern Conference, where they've gone the route of food with there's an iconic pizza place. They did, I think it was something with tomatoes this year. So anytime you can rebrand, I always think that's really cool. But we're going to see more of that. I mean, those logos were really popular. So more of the goldfinch, I'm sure we'll see worked into some merchandise lines that state crest, that Iowa Wild motif, Iowa State crest, I can promise you we're going to see more of pretty heavily. So things to be excited about for sure. For me, and I love that crew neck too. I have it. It's one of my favorite pieces. I'm a sucker for Violent Gentleman stuff.
Yeah, that stuff is sweet.
The sweatshirts, the long sleeve shirts, the long sleeve shirt that I have from not this year but last year, 2 years ago, is one of my favorite pieces. And we have a Violent Gentleman hat that I'm a big fan of too. So,
and you see that stuff a lot in the fan base. I remember I talked about it in the Open, that Iowa Cubs night. I remember walking through the section of all, which was a great showing for our fans, by the way. But
close
there's
to 500 people.
A lot of that Violent Gentleman stuff. You see a lot of the hats and the shirts.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great look.
So that would be my favorite. But yeah, head to the store, get your stuff now. There's going to be new stuff dropping soon. New State Fair stuff. I know we always do a State Fair T-shirt. I've heard rumors of a State Fair hat being put in the mix too, which is really exciting. So be on the lookout for that. But if you want your Father's Day gear, head to the shop this weekend and grab that. Last thing before we get to the bus line, just upcoming events. We've talked about the Cubs game. We got another free event for our Wild 365 members. We're going to the Barnstormers game on July 13th. So get your tickets, RSVPs. RSVP information should have been sent out already. If you haven't gotten it, just give your 365 rep a call, have them mark you down. But going to be coming to the Barnstormers game here at the arena, enjoying a nice night out again with all of our 365 members. So be on the lookout for more information on that in your emails. And then again, a free event. This one's open to everybody, open to the public. You don't need to be a Wild 365 member to come to it. But our summer block party is taking place a couple days later on July 16th, which is a Tuesday. We got a lot of fun things planned. I rattled them all off last week. I'm going to continue to pump this and how exciting this event's going to be. It's going to be a cool time. I know we were both there last year. It was really cool.
Had a ball.
It's just going to be bigger and better this year. Same location down at the Science Center, presented by Home Solutions of Iowa. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully the weather cooperates, and it's going to be a nice day out.
I was going to say, didn't a storm blow through last year?
No, that was like at the very, very end.
Yeah.
Like things were over.
It started getting nasty towards the end. I remember
but a
being
couple
like,
years
get
ago
home.
there was a storm, and we ended up having to postpone. There's always a plan B, but we're looking forward to the block party. Going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see everybody there for that. And now we can get to the bus line, 515-318-7863. They do keep coming in. We love it. Keep calling in. Keep giving us questions. Keep giving us feedback. Whatever it is you guys want to hear about, we're gonna roll through and talk to them. We between last week and this week, we got a lot.
We now have recordings that we're canning for later episodes.
Yeah,
that's how successful this has been so far.
Depends.
What's the number again?
It depends. 515-318-7863. If we can avoid, if we don't want to can voicemails too much, but we also can't spend an hour going through them all. So
I just
we
love that we have too many to choose
sometimes.
from,
right?
Which is what I love.
We're gonna get to as many as we can for you guys. The ones, especially if they're like time sensitive and relevant, we're definitely gonna there's a Stanley Cup question in here, so we got to get to that before it's too late. So we're gonna roll through these. I think we got 4 we're gonna highlight today. So we will start with a familiar name, at least to the two of us. I see this name on our social channels a lot. I know it's somebody you've worked with a little bit. So without further ado, here we go.
Hi, guys. This is Elijah Bond. This is a question for Ben. Ben, at what time with the Wild did you realize, man, this is a great place to be employed at, and I'm glad that I'm here? Thanks for the episode, guys.
I'm still waiting for it. No.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
couldn't be further from the truth.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I do think it's obviously questions direct to you, but I think it's one we can certainly both
absolutely
answer.
can
But
both talk on.
I'll let you start because
I'll try to not be too long-winded. I mean, this was a place that when I moved down to Des Moines to work for the Buccaneers in the USHL, it was a pipe dream. I'm like, man, wouldn't it be something if I could somehow work for the Buccaneers for a few years and then make the jump. I never in my wildest dreams at the beginning of that journey thought it would come true, and I'm just beyond grateful that it did come true. And now going on technically my 5th season. One was the weird short COVID season where I was, Joe was still here and I was in the PR / kind of calling games role because Joe was in Minnesota games. But I think it was pretty early that I realized how great this place is. I would probably say it was in that first season, which again was strange and weird, and it might have even been that summer or early in the second year for me, second season, not second year. All that 2 seasons happened within 1 year because it was the 2021 season was really just 2021. It was February to May. But the thing that jumped out to me, probably let's call it 6 months in after that first shortened season and then into I would say the fall of the second season, because I was drinking through a fire hose. There wasn't a whole lot of time for Joe to offload his stuff onto me. More of the team services was the stuff I was really nervous about as opposed to the broadcast. That came a little more second nature to me than the team services, which I had never done before. So thanks for taking a flyer on me at that time.
We were
Todd Fredrickson and Allie Brown at the time, and Joe O'Donnell and Tim Army at the time, Mike Murray, all people that took a flyer on me and said, we think this guy can do this. We don't know he can do this.
We were office buddies for a little bit.
That's right. We were.
I started
it
was about a month, and then you moved downstairs.
But I think it was in that window where I was still kind of flying by the seat of my pants and certainly making mistakes, and there's just so many people that in this organization, we're all here to pick each other up. And I've seen so much cross-department help over my time here where sometimes someone that helps you with something, even though it doesn't remotely fit their job description or what falls under their umbrella of responsibility, but everybody is here to help you, or at bare minimum, get you to the person that should help you with this. And there's so much unity and synergy between the front office group, between departments, and especially as someone that doesn't get as integrated into the front office during the season because I'm gone so much. That's such a valuable culture to have. And that to me really started to show up probably in that fall of my second season. And I've only seen it more and more. Culture's always been important here, even long before I arrived. But I do think it seems like it's only getting more and more critical, and it's becoming more and more intentional how, whether it's Allie Kornick or you or our other directors, are really pushing for that now. And you're seeing that in the people we're bringing in. And in the interviews we're having, even just talking about some of the interviews that you've been doing recently to help fill some of the marketing holes, that's the first thing you're looking for. How does this person fit into our culture? The rest of it we can teach. We can teach some skills, but how does this person fit into our culture? And it really just feels like it's only gotten better since I've gotten here and since I maybe had that aha moment, if you will, in the fall of 2021.
Yeah, for me, so actually it's kind of a coincidental kind of story. So when I was in San Jose, my roommate in San Jose had worked out here for a year, and it always spoke really, really highly of Des Moines and this area and everything. In 2016 or 2017, league meetings were here in Des Moines, and I came out here, and the city was awesome. Like, the place was great. So I knew of the city a little bit. But the one thing that I always keep tabs on is like what's happening around the rest of the league from like a recognition and an award standpoint, and who are the teams that are leading things from the front, who are the teams that people are modeling things after. And the one thing that I always would come back to is Iowa was always in the mix for different things, whether it was social media, game operations, sponsorship, whatever it may be. So I always knew that like there was like a pedigree there for this team. And truthfully, like I kind of do now, I'm not in touch with a lot of what happens around the rest of the league. I wasn't super in touch with what was happening here in Iowa because we weren't playing them all that often. So for me, like knowing that there wasn't a ton of success, I would never have known, because that they get a lot of support and the organization does such a good job. I was fortunate enough to be in a position where this job opened up. I was able to take it. And for me, when it really set in like, wow, this place is unbelievable, was my first season, so the 21-22 season, but opening night. seeing the support from the fans, how passionate people were, how excited people were. Even though and a lot of it probably stemmed from we're just coming out of COVID too, and the shortened season. Like we're back full season. People are geared up. They're fired up. They're ready to go. So for me, seeing that was like, wow, this place has something that a lot of other cities and a lot of other franchises probably around the league may not have. So that was the moment for me, and it kind of reaffirmed everything that I had thought prior coming in. So
you knew it before you even got here.
A little bit. It was
and
more
then
of
it
like
corroborated it.
Yeah. It was more on that front. So, that would be my answer. So.
And the other thing I'd add is the Minnesota support. That's different than most places.
And I didn't want to get into that too much because I know we've got other voicemails
I just
that
wanted
ask
to put
about
that out there because that's a huge part of it.
And how to grow and all that stuff. We get a ton of support from Minnesota.
That's a huge part of it.
And resources that I know for a fact other teams don't have. So, we got it pretty good here. All right. Voicemail. Fridays. Voicemail number 2. Here we go.
Hey guys, I was wondering if there are any promotions that you guys have worked on that you'd love to do, but for whatever reason just will never come to fruition. Just, some kind of fun stuff that you guys would just really enjoy working and putting together, but just won't come to fruition. Thanks. Enjoy the podcast. Bye.
Joey, I got this one. I got a lot of innate knowledge about this. So
Okay.
you just
Cool. Take it. Plenty. There's a lot. I mean, I can tell you right now because we're going through the process of planning promotions and things like that. And we've got – it's going to sound like a lot. There's like a 13-page document that we've got that's got theme nights, giveaways, specialty jerseys, all kinds of things on the table.
There's one I want to happen so bad.
Don't always –
I won't say it.
Yeah. We just heard back from their people the other day, so potentially. But yeah, there's a lot that just get stuck on the cutting or fall to the cutting room floor or whatever that phrase is. That just
Left
don't
on
make
the cutting room
Yeah,
floor.
that just don't make the cut because we run out of space. It's a big puzzle. Like schedule comes out in July, and then we're just trying to slot everything. And we're gonna have a list of 30 or so promotions that we really, really, really like. And they're not all going to make it.
And there's tried and true that you have to do every year.
Yeah,
there's such home runs.
Yeah.
So you're really not even looking at 31.
No, well, that list of 30 includes your Crash's birthday and Kids
Pink in the
Takeover and Pink in the
Rink
Rink and
yeah.
your school day game. All those things are going to happen. So those all get looped in. It's at the end of the day, you're trying to probably fill somewhere between 5 and 7 with hopefully some new ideas. The number's probably shrunk a little bit too because now we've got things like women in sports and recovery night.
These
things
are
that
coming back.
have taken off
These
that
are
have done
coming
really,
back.
really well. In terms of like an idea that we had that just didn't come to fruition. There's one that stands out to me. It was an Alec Lesnar idea from last year.
Elite creative mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Elite creative mind.
And it's not one that's new to the American Hockey League. I know Texas does this, but it was a Renaissance night, and we had a lot of ideas about like how to make it seem like you're at the. And I know
That's the one I was referring to earlier.
Oh, I thought you were referring to something
No.
else.
Like, there's two, but that's
no.
the one that I want to happen so dearly.
Yeah.
I want it to happen
it's
so
still,
dearly.
It's still something that it's not like it's off the table for this year. It just didn't happen last
The
year.
fact that you're bringing this up is just sinking me. On Friday, too, of all days, Joey, to sink my hopes that Renaissance Night is not happening.
Who said it wasn't going to happen?
Well, the fact that you're bringing it up here in the pot.
Because the question was, has there ever been one that didn't come to fruition? Yeah, it was on the table last year and it didn't come to fruition.
I hope it comes to fruition this year.
It's on the list. I don't know what
Better.
you want from me.
I am platooning for it publicly.
But we've talked about how to make it feel like you're at a Renaissance fair when you come in, and there's a lot you can do graphically and with promotion leading up to it. But is there, if anybody out there is listening that is a part of this community, please let us know. But like LARPing.
I would
love
to LARP.
The movie Role Models.
If anyone wants
I
to
think that
invite me to a LARPing, I will go. I will absolutely go.
I'll go with you.
I'd love to go.
But like imagine like a Renaissance night with at the end of the game you do a post game LARP session on the ice. Like that would be so
for
cool.
that.
So like there's a lot of ideas that we had, but again, you just run out of spaces to put things sometimes, or sometimes you don't have like a true hook for whatever reason, and it could be a lot of different reasons. But that was one that I know that was a really cool idea that fell off the table. We've talked a lot about Like I was in touch with Marvel last year to do a Marvel night. That kind of fell off the table. I've talked with Major League Eating in the past about eating events and whatnot. That just kind of hasn't come through. So there's a lot of that stuff that just because it doesn't happen one year doesn't mean it can't happen in the future, but usually gets tabled for another year. And the hope is that you just we want to find things that are new and unique and things that are going to not push the envelope, but set new standards. And it's got to be something that drives tickets for us. But
everything kind of has to fall into place.
yeah,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces that need to come together.
It's not just like, this is a great idea, let's run it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is a great idea, but how do you then execute on it? That's where things get left on the cutting floor.
Yeah. So I don't know. We've got a big list this year. Got some really, really good ideas. One, which I'll tell you about when the camera goes off, that I'm really excited about if we can find a way to work with this group. It's more of a kid-friendly kind of thing, but
I love the
oh
sound of
my
that.
God, the things we can do if we were able to put this together, it'd be unbelievable.
Okay.
And to my knowledge, not much like it around the league. So, thank you for that question.
Yes.
Next one. This is a long one, so bear with us here. This is a longer voicemail, but we're gonna go with it. Here we go.
Hey guys, John from Pittsburgh here.
Pittsburgh.
Had two questions.
Do you know Ray Sylvester?
On
We got to be quiet.
on the Stanley Cup Finals. First would be your thoughts on matchups from both coaches. I'm very interested to see kind of, how Maurice and Knobloch kind of match up and what matchup decisions they kind of go with when they're on home ice. If Barkov's going to be the guy to try and shut down 97 from the Oilers, and what your thoughts are on that, or maybe if they try and go with their third line with Lundell and try and utilize him to shut down either McDavid or Draisaitl, and then kind of let Barkov do his thing on the offensive zone. So interested on your thoughts on that. Second question would be, who would be, as of right now, pre-series, who would be your Conn Smythe winning votes? I personally think that, if the Oilers were to win, McDavid would probably get it, but my vote would be Bouchard. I think that he is the key piece in this run. He has kind of been what they have been missing. The prior couple years, they've had McDavid, they've had Draisaitl. He's got 27 points already, only 4 behind McDavid. So he would probably get my vote as of right now. A little more of a toss-up if the Panthers were to win. Maybe Bob probably would get my vote right now, but there's a lot that could be changed on there. So interested on your guys' thoughts. Thank you.
That's a hockey guy right there.
That's big time hockey guy. I'm gonna tell you, I'm no coach and I don't know anything really when it comes to X's and O's.
I think he kind of answered his own question, because right when he was asking that, initially, those the two people that came to mind for me were Barkov or Lundell. Anton Lundell is a part and
to neutralize the McDavid.
It
line,
is,
you're saying? Yeah.
and great question. Thanks for calling in, John. A fabulous question. Way more in depth than I think we ever thought we'd get on this show.
For sure.
People think we're better hockey minds than we are.
This has me excited. Like, we got to get in touch with Sean Roberts and do our KX or all day against him.
you loved that.
That was awesome.
It was. Thank God you came, because we talked so much basketball and I just can't talk about it. Not because I don't want to, because I don't know anything about it. Anyway, back to the question. Obviously, the great question every team has when you're playing the Edmonton Oilers is, how do you stop 29 and 97? How do you do it? The thing that's made the Oilers successful this playoff run is the fact that teams have found a way to silence them on given nights, and other people have stepped up.
Yep.
That's why they're here. It is. Because you look at all these past playoffs, McDavid and Draisaitl have been getting their cookies in all these playoffs that have fallen short, 2 rounds short, 1 round short, etc. But if you're trying, you do need to neutralize them. You're not going to keep them quiet all series, but if you can keep them quiet for a game, that's maybe the night you can win.
I also think too, like, it's McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, you're not gonna just quiet them. If you're Florida, you got to play a disciplined game, because if you put that team on the power play,
It's
you're
over.
in
You won't beat them.
big trouble.
And that's Florida's MO, right? Is they play
Push
on
the
that
envelope.
line.
Yep.
They play on that line. I mean, Paul Maurice has forgotten more about hockey than I'll ever know. To me, that third line for Florida, Lundell, I think it's Luosterainen. I forget the right winger on that line. Is it Cousins? Or Lomberg, maybe.
I think they're both fourth line. I'm
Are
not
they?
really sure.
Anyway,
All I know is
I
that
think
they're
it's
deep.
Luosterainen and Lundell. I forget I've watched more of the West than I have of the East. I didn't watch a ton of the Rangers Panthers series. Again, we were talking about this. That was my peak hockey fatigue time. Now I'm really, really enamored to watch the final. But to me, can Barkov also contribute if you have him matching up against McDavid? Maybe he can, but if Lundell can even hang with him, if he can even somewhat deter him, I would try to keep Barkov away from him if you can, because then Barkov's a wonderful creator. I think he's one of, if not the most underrated forward in hockey right now. I think that guy is on off the charts talent. Knowing someone who coached him at one point, I've heard he's an unbelievable leader. So that I would want to try to free him up a little bit. But then again, you're dealing with Edmonton's checking lines. To me, I think Lundell's the answer, but that can obviously change, and that's just shooting from the cuff. And having not watched that team as much, and I'll let you go. Do you want to touch on the matchups?
No, because I'm not.
And again, mine's
I don't know. It's just
it's a stab in the dark.
I think it's more general. Like you gotta stay out of the penalty box if you're Florida. I do think overall, listen, I don't want Florida to win because they beat Boston, and I can't stand some of those players like Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, Ryan Lomberg,
I
who
like
I've hated
Tkachuk
since
a lot.
I've
like
hated
Tkachuk so much.
I've hated Lomberg since I was in San Jose, and he was in Stockton. The guy was a little rat.
There you have
I
it.
hate Tkachuk because he's not on my team. If he played on my
I
team, it'd be great.
Tkachuk.
But I just can't stand. I don't want them to win. But are they the deeper, better team? Probably. But I can't pick them. So I'm rooting for Edmonton for sure. For me, it comes down to I think we can talk about the Conn Smythe thing a little bit. But I also think an important piece to talk about is an X factor. So who do you think the X factor is on each team? If I'm Conn Smythe, right? If it's Edmonton, I think no matter what happens, it's going to be very hard to not give it to McDavid if you're the writers, just because that's just part of the story. Good players of his talent, they win Stanley Cups and they get these Conn Smythe
him
awards.
in Game 6 against Dallas. There was a planet he was on, and there was a planet the rest of the game was on.
Yeah.
He willed that team past that goal he scored. That was one of the best I have ever seen in an absolute pressure cooker moment. And then everything else he did in that game defensively without the puck, lights out from him. So I would agree. He's the consensus pick. He is the consensus pick.
Yeah, so I would think it's him if it's Edmonton. If it's Florida, I don't think it's Bob, because I'm going to be honest, I don't think Bob's been that great in the playoffs. I just think that defensively,
I would disagree with you on that.
Florida's been so good that he really hasn't been tested. He's only had a couple the Boston series, the Bruins just didn't shoot the puck. And he wasn't that good. His save percentage was .870. So even the Rangers, they stopped the Rangers from getting a lot of high danger chances, and when the Rangers got good chances, they scored. So I don't think Bob's been. Not that he's a Vezina finalist. I think he's good and certainly could change on a dime. But as of right now, I don't think he's your MVP. If you're Florida, Barkov's hard to look away from.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know the points. I don't know what their point. I don't know who's leading them in points in the playoffs.
Without Barkov,
off the top of my head,
without Barkov, Florida's probably not in the Stanley Cup final.
No, I would agree.
I think it's hard to pick against Barkov. So I feel like I'm missing somebody big on Florida who should be a shoo-in.
Carter Verhaeghe has had, again, he's a playoff machine.
Yeah.
He's really contributed, scored some monstrous goals because he's become the, was it Eric Cole who was Mr. or no, it was Justin Williams.
Yeah.
He's
Mr. Game
kind of
7.
becoming that. He's becoming this generation's version of Justin Williams a little bit, scoring some major goals. But again, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, and that matters too. Because if you just have one series, that doesn't get you in the Conn Smythe voting. I like the Bouchard touch because you're right. They've never they thought Darnell Nurse was that, and Darnell Nurse has taken some flack in this playoffs, but he's responded to it, and it's become, I think, a really nice piece for the Oilers, but he's not the ceiling they thought was his ceiling has not been the ceiling. Evan Bouchard has grown past the ceiling they thought that he had. The guy that I would throw in, and he's probably not going to win the Conn Smythe, but almost throw him in the Verhaeghe discussion, is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who he became the player Edmonton needed him to be when Connor McDavid arrived.
Yeah.
He couldn't be the guy, but he could be a guy.
Yeah.
And he has been so good for that team since McDavid has arrived because the spotlight got off him.
Yeah.
And not saying that he's become a third-line depth player,
No.
but he's scored some huge goals. He was great in that Dallas series. He's been timely. He's a penalty killer for him. I've loved watching Ryan Nugent-Hopkins play in these playoffs, and he's delivered in some major moments. He'd be someone that he won't win the Conn Smythe, but you don't get to this point without him, without question. And let's also not forget all that guy has had to live through in Edmonton as this team that was just a load of first-round picks, load of number 1 overall picks that was listing and drifting into nothing. And Taylor Hall is gone. Nail Yakupov, let's not forget about that name, right?
Yeah.
He's the one guy that's still there and has had to deal with the media pressure of being in a Canadian market in the city of champions. It says that when you drive into Edmonton, and here he is on the precipice of potentially bringing a cup into Edmonton. Pretty cool for him.
Yeah.
Pretty cool for him to go through all that.
Yeah. The last thing it wasn't part of the question, but X Factor. And when I think X Factor, I think of, favorites really don't. I mean, I'm sure Florida. You could come up with an X Factor for Florida, but for me, I think it's Edmonton. Who are the X Factors with Edmonton, because they are the underdogs in the series, right? So
just like they were against Dallas.
And I know the guys on Chicklets talked about it too, and I don't want people to think that I'm just like piggybacking off of that, but.
There's only so many takes.
No, but
you can have in this world, right?
There are kind of two guys. One that they had mentioned was Darnell Nurse, because obviously he's got to play kind of mean and physical and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I think the biggest X factor in the series is Evander Kane, because when Evander Kane was playing against Matthew Tkachuk, so Tkachuk is obviously the driver for Florida, and they go as he goes, and you saw that in the Stanley Cup last year when he was banged up. They fell apart, right? So he's their driver. When Tkachuk was in Calgary playing against Kane kind of like neutered him.
Yeah, I've heard this same take elsewhere.
And he really just kind of he held him in check, right? And if Evander Kane can find that nastiness and that edge without crossing that line, but really making life difficult for Matthew Tkachuk again, I think the Oilers got a real shot to make some noise. Now, they need Evander Kane to score. He hasn't done a lot in the playoffs.
He got hurt in Game 6, too, against Dallas. He came back, but
he was really, really good last year in the playoffs, struggling a little bit this year, so that's important. So, to me, Evander Kane is the big piece.
It's a great call.
You go back to that matchup question for John, like that Evander Kane's getting matched up against Tkachuk every time. So, I think that's big. And then obviously, Stuart Skinner, obviously, a goalie.
Goalies are always X factors. You don't even have to touch on it. Always.
Yeah. So that's that one. All right, we'll do one more here
because
we're running a little long and we gotta run here. But last one, this one's a little bit short and sweet. Here we go.
Hey Ben and Joe, it's John from the East Village, long-time listener, first-time caller. Ben, I know you travel with the team. What is your favorite American League city to go travel to? And Joey, who is your favorite opponent that the Wild play against? Could be for the logo reason, the jersey reason, or some of the players. Thank you. This is John from East Village.
East Village. Love East Village.
Great spot. Luca's in the East Village. Luca's in the East Village, and that's a hot spot. I love Luca, and that's a hot spot for the guys, too. I know that.
Luca's outstanding. Thank you, John, for that question. The low-hanging fruit is obviously San Diego.
Yeah.
And we're
of the few places I've traveled, that's at the top of my list.
I mean, and we're so lucky that we seem to go there every year.
Yeah.
I hope if we go again this year that we work that into a longer trip, because last year, again, I've talked about this before, the key is when you get an off day.
Yeah.
If you go in, and sometimes you go in, you play, you leave. You can get a little bit of a flavor of a city that way, but when you get an off day, we had 2 off days there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I was salivating getting off the plane. San Diego's is probably the best place to go. Just like, I mean, to me, it's California. It's the sunshine, and I've been to LA before, and I'm not a big city person. I grew up in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, which is a big city, but I grew up in the suburbs, and
not many are LA big.
No, and it's too frenetic for me. There's too much, the traffic, the noise, just everything that comes with that part of California. It doesn't do anything for me. But San Diego, it's Southern California. Life feels like it moves a little slower there. Sure. The whole La Jolla area, I love when I'm on the road to get out on off days, and I like to just go hike by myself. I love doing that, and just get in touch. I'm a big nature person. I love getting in touch with nature, and so there's some great hiking around the area. The food is fantastic. I got to see Coronado last year. That was a Stephen Fogarty, of course, with the naval base. Yep. He unsolicitedly came to me and said, "Go check it out," and I went out there and was in awe of it. So San Diego is the top spot for me.
Yeah. I haven't traveled to many places in the AHL. San Diego is one that I have been to. I've been to Tucson. For me, one of the
Tucson's great.
Tucson's
I love Tucson too. Yep. More good hiking there as well.
I've been to.
You've kind of been to the good ones then.
Yeah,
though.
there's really I've been to one they're not part of the league anymore. I've been to one not so great spot, which I don't think I won't mention, but one of my favorites, which I think is a very sneaky, underrated spot, which again, similar to Des Moines. When I was coming out here, I heard former players say, I said, "You're going to love it out there. It's like one of the sneaky best cities."
It is,
and we talked about it too, but Grand Rapids is an unreal spot.
One and the same to me. Des Moines and Grand Rapids.
Unbelievable. Yep. Grand Rapids. I had so much fun when we were there. When I was in San Jose, we were out there for playoffs, and I had so much fun in GR. Huge craft beer spot. So if you're into that, that's great. Founders has a brewery right in GR, which is great. So that was a cool spot to check out. So that was really cool.
We had a couple downtown markets there that are off the charts good.
Yeah.
You go and there's one spot where there's fresh seafood right out of, I think they get out of Lake Michigan, and yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So
on
GR, if I can't pick San Diego, GR is pretty good. But obviously, I'd be a little biased to San Jose too, just because it's nice to go back there, having lived there for 5 years. But
also, Austin, Texas. Let's throw that.
Haven't
one in
been there.
Too.
Heard great things.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
love going there.
The other question in terms of I look forward to playing, for me it's tough because we play a lot of the same teams over and over again, right? And I get some fatigue with it sometimes. I like seeing the teams that you don't get to see 7 or 8 times in a year. So for me, anytime we see anybody from the Pacific is always fun.
Yep.
Especially when they're different teams. Like seeing Coachella was awesome last year. I would love to someday see Calgary down here or
I'd
Abbotsford.
love to go to Calgary.
Right? That'd be cool.
I want to go.
And when you're in the West, you rarely see teams from the East. So having Hershey come in this year was so cool.
Agreed.
Other teams, I would love to play Providence, just because that's my area. So I would love to have a home with Providence. That would be really, really cool. If there's a team that I haven't ever seen play in the AHL, I'm probably gonna push towards. It'd probably be one of those, maybe those New York teams. I think Rochester would be a lot of fun to see play. Just they always seem to have a really good team year in, year out. They're always in the mix.
History too.
A lot of rich history there. So for me, I think Rochester would be a fun one, or Syracuse. One of those two upper, Western New York, I guess, teams. Different. Don't see them very often, but I think that would be a fun one to have come visit here and have a fun series with them. So those would be my picks.
The only one that I agree with, Hershey was awesome this year. And the only other one I would throw in there, only because these series always wind up being really good series, is Colorado. In my time here, strictly just speaking from that question, who do you like seeing come in? I have really good memories, specifically the last 2 seasons.
Really good games.
Those games are really good. They're always they usually come in around Christmas time, so we typically have really good attendance. My memories of the Eagles coming to play at Wells Fargo Arena are very good. And 2 years ago, that was when that big long winning streak
started. That's when the run started.
Yeah, that's when that started. So, and I like the way the Eagles play. They always play hard. They always play fast. They play with a little bit of chip on their shoulder, and Those are always my favorite types of games to be involved in. So good vibes when I think about the Eagles and Wild matchups throughout my time with the Wild. Also another great place to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's it for the bus line. Thank you, everybody, for calling in, giving
Yes.
us your messages, your questions, some really good ones this week. Keep them coming. We're recording again next week for next week's episode, so get those in. We'll get them answered. Little pro tip, if you get them into us before Friday, there's a pretty good chance you're going to hear it on the following week's episode, so we can get it in. But 515-318-7863. Give us a call. Hit up the bus line. I think that wraps it for the week.
Yeah, at that, I think we've reached the transit depot. We're getting off the bus. We've reached home base. Mr. Goldstein, thank you. Thank you to Caedan Bankier as well for a lovely chat. Also to Jeremy Core with Executive Podcast Solutions and our friends at Explore Minnesota, as well as all of you for tuning in and for those of you who called into the bus line. Can't wait for next week already. We're back next week, episode 34. Until then, for Goldstein, I'm Gislason. Thanks for stopping by. This has been episode 33 of Ridin' the Bus, the official I Am a Wild podcast presented by Explore Minnesota. Until next time.
Like, share, subscribe. 2 Hawks for the win.